Hello and welcome to Healthy Seminars Conscious Tuesday, Finding Calm in the Presence of Chaos. I'm your host, Lorne Brown, the founder of Healthy Seminars. I'm also the clinical director of AccuBalance in Vancouver. And today we're with my friend and colleague, Yvonne Farrell. She's a licensed acupuncturist and an author and a great presenter. And today she's going to talk about, on Conscious Tuesday, consciousness in chaos, how to help your chi deal with evolutionary stress. Just a quick housekeeping, a few things that I want to share. I'm going to see if I can get quicker at this. Just to remind you, again, everything here is meant for educational purposes. If you have a health condition, please seek out a healthcare provider. Everything's for educational purposes. On Healthy Seminars, we have a resource page, and you guys are getting really good at finding it because we're getting less and less emails on how to find it. It's healthyseminars.com/resources. Or if you go to the homepage, this is the homepage of the site, halfway down, you'll see a link for it, Community, Unity, Immunity. The purpose of this Conscious Tuesday is to create community because community brings unity and supports our immunity. And so we wanted to give you an opportunity to see each other, hence all your cameras are on. And then once or twice during the talk, we turn off all our mutes. So we turn on our mics and we get to say hi to each other. Because although we have physical distancing, we still can have social solidarity, and that's what this is about. And then to have tools for yourself, so tools that can help you find that calm in the presence of uncertainty, and also to take these tools then that you've learned for yourself and take them on telehealth, telemedicine, and share them with your community, to your patients. On the resource page, you'll see these are all anchored, meaning if you click on any of these, it will take you to that spot. So we have stuff on telehealth. We have topical webinars. Today's Conscious Tuesday, Throwback Thursday. We have a whole herbal class happening, a series of them, many of them a couple times a week. Then we have a regular live webinars and a Healthy Seminars discount. And then if you scroll down, it'll give you links to whatever's coming up, help you get to the replays. And then just so you know, all the Healthy Seminars recorded courses are on sale for the month of April during isolation at 25% off. That includes all of Yvonne's courses. And I was looking through your courses, Yvonne, and I was like, all of them are on mental emotional. Not all of them, majority of them are. So it's appropriate we have you on Conscious Tuesday, right? Because so much of that is on there. So that's what our talk is today. This is where the replay will be, but you can find it on Conscious Tuesday as well. It'll be up for 48 hours. And the reason we keep the recordings up for a short time is we actually want you to show up for the live webinar. It's about community. I don't want you watching this 4 days later in isolation. And I really want you to watch it. I don't want to create this content and it doesn't get watched. And I know if you have it forever, because we've done our studies on this, we've been doing this since 2008, it sits on your shelf forever. So we've created the 48-hour replay. So you get here live for free. And if you can't do it for whatever reason or time zones don't work for you, then you still have 48 hours to watch it after the live stream. So I want to let you know that's available for you guys. All right, let's get this started then. We are going to, I think there's one other piece of housekeeping. Down below, you can raise your hand. So there's a place to raise your hand. If you want, practice raising your hand digitally, not like this. We won't always see that, digitally. So just try and raise your hand for the live webinar people. This is how you can ask questions. You can post things in the chat room as well. We may moderate it, but it may be easier. This is going to be discussion with Yvonne today, and we really want you to be able to participate. That's the whole idea. And that's our disclaimer again. Yes, this is for educational purposes. This is not meant to be medical advice. Perfect. I see some familiar faces here. Tatiana's back in the room. That's great. Did our New Zealander come back that's getting up at 3 a.m. for these, Sandro? Do you see her? Maybe you let me know if you see her. But just seeing so many faces here, this is really warming my heart. So Yvonne, let's get started here. You got something to share. Again, our goal was, how do we find this calm in the presence of uncertainty? Your topic is consciousness in chaos and what you can do to help your chi deal with this emotional stress. The stressors here, there's isolation. Let's start chatting. We'll watch the chat room and the hands for questions. And then if you guys put up your hand, we're happy to unmic you and you can get involved in discussion and ask questions. I will say I'm the moderator. if it gets into more of a personal one-on-one therapy, I usually just mute you because this is not the medium for it. So I apologize. The other people really are happy about it, but I apologize for it. And the only
Okay, this whole talk is going to be personal, so you might have to mute me now.
You guys can share about yours a little bit, but you know what I mean, right? And unfortunately, as my team said, I get to mute you guys, but they've all asked, how do we mute you, Lord? That's the question they're getting on email. How do we mute Lorne? Yeah, unfortunately, you have to go set up your own platform. All right, Yvonne, I'm curious to hear what you have to share with us.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. It's so wonderful to see all your faces. I'm really glad to have this level of connection when we're all sitting around at home. I saw Randine and Keith's Conscious Tuesday lectures the last couple of weeks, and I'm not sure I'm going to say really anything different, but I'm probably going to say it from a slightly different perspective. Randine spoke about this time as a time of, digging in deep to the yin and appreciating that internal journey. And Keith was talking about building virtues from a 5-element perspective in this time of crisis. And I'm going to talk to you about this from different levels of chi. So we know that the world is in survival mode right now. And if we're going to get something valuable out of this chaotic time, then we have to find some level of consciousness in this experience. And so I'm going to talk about the different levels of chi and what's happening in those different levels of chi so that we can find a few things that we can do personally to address each level of chi so that everything is working together, so that we get some value out of this time where we're isolated. So when I think about this, I don't know if you've ever seen this on YouTube or anything like that, but tango, which is a wonderful dance, every now and then you'll see a video of a 3-partner tango where there might be 2 women and 1 man, or 1 woman and 2 men, and they're all doing the tango together. At some point, you recognize not one person is leading. Each participant in the dance is taking a turn leading the dance. And when I think about that, I think about that's the beauty of these 3 levels of chi. Each of these 3 levels of chi has very, very specific functions. If they have jobs that they have to do. And when one person or one level of chi is doing all the leading, then the other 2 suffer a bit. And so we have to find ways to bolster all 3 levels of chi so that we can move fluidly in the dance between these levels of chi. So let's sort of look at this as a reminder in terms of types of chi. So we start with the outside, right? So we start with Wei Qi. Wei Qi is disseminated by the lungs, which are being hit hard in this pandemic, right? It's disseminated to the surface through the lungs. It is reflexive in nature. It is before thought. It acts without thinking. So its job is to filter everything on the outside that is trying to get in, not just in through your lungs, but in through all your sensory orifices, in through your skin, in through your intestinal tract and your digestive tract, everything trying to get in. This Wei Qi is trying to find ways to keep out the bad stuff, keep out the stuff that is not useful. So it's working all the time, reflexively, autonomically, without thought, to defend you. And so in some ways, it is the sort of ultimate version of survival mode because its job is threat assessment, right? Let's figure out where the threat is. Is it a threat? Isn't it a threat? In some ways, Wei Qi is very much like the reptile brain, right? The brain stem that isn't thinking about making your heart beat, isn't thinking about making your lungs take in air. It's just doing it autonomically. It's reflexive. It's instinctual in nature. And so that aspect of Qi right now is seeing disaster everywhere, threat everywhere. I mean, when you can turn toilet paper into a threat, you know your Wei Qi is hardwired for survival. So that's taking charge right now. Everybody's looking for ways to survive. What's the best way to survive? But that's not the only thing that's happening. The other things that are happening are we're having feelings about this. We're afraid, we're worried, we're sad. And that's when you start moving in a little deeper into yin qi. So yin qi is nutritive qi. This is the qi aspect of blood. So this type of qi is the type of qi that is associated with the emotional process. It governs the internal terrain of the body. How are you feeling about this? This type of qi is the qi that's engaged in interaction. And now that our interaction is so limited, our feelings are getting stirred up around this. And the more our feelings get stirred up, the more uncomfortable we get, the more our Wei Qi on the outside is going, hey, what's happening in there? Is there a bigger problem than I think there is? What am I supposed to do with all this information? So now we have an imbalance between Wei Qi and Yin Qi going on because we have survival at the forefront. We have emotions at the level of Yin Qi going, I'm so sad, I'm so scared, I don't know what to do next. How am I going to get out of this? Is it safe to go for groceries? When is my practice going to start again? All this internal terrain is being stirred up. And we're having all these incredible feelings. This reaction internally at the level of Yin Qi is like the mammalian brain, the sort of middle section of the brain. And that part of the brain is very interested in relationship. It's very interested in social connection. It's very interested in emotional experience. It's tied into the memory of things, of how we feel about things. And so that's getting all stirred up right now. That's churning away and trying to find a way to work. Then when you get to that sort of next level of qi, yuan qi, this is the deepest level of qi. So here we're talking about the constitutional aspect of your qi, the qi that comes from the genetic gifts you were given, the qi that comes from your basic constitutional strength. And at this level of qi, what we're talking about is a sense of self. Who am I, right? Who am I? Why am I here? And also belief systems that we have developed over time. If you believe that you're going to come through the pandemic with a sense of resilience and strength, and that your practice is going to flourish when this is all done, that belief is coming from your yuan qi. It's coming from a belief in yourself. And so that aspect of qi is really related to the front part of the brain, the neocortex, right? The prefrontal cortex, that part of your brain that governs higher function, that governs executive function, that governs abstract and creative thinking. So if that part of your qi is leading the dance, then the other parts of the qi will begin to balance out somewhat, somehow, because even though you're afraid and even though there is threat outside, if you believe in who you are and why you're here, then you take some of the stress out of the other two types of qi, right? So the goal is to find out who's leading the dance and if they're the one that should be leading the dance right now, right? Sometimes survival is important. So when you go out and you go to the grocery store and you put on your mask and you stay 6 feet away from the person next to you, your Wei Qi is going to be alert. It's good for it to be alert. It's important for it to be alert. When you come home and you realize that you can't connect physically with your loved ones, Your yin qi is going to lead the dance, and you're going to have emotions. And it's important to have those emotions. It's important to experience them because they're part of how we're going to learn from this experience, right? The memory of the feelings that are coming through this are going to help us to gain some value in this experience. And then in those quiet moments when you can sit down and you can get to a place of centeredness and peace, and you can tap into that Yuan Qi, that's when you have to get belief systems that support the idea that it's going to be all right, that this is going to be painful, that it's going to be scary, that people are going to have loss in lots of levels, but we are resilient and we will get through this in the best way that we can. So we have these 3 levels of qi. If we can recognize these 3 levels of qi, then there are some things we can do to address those levels. For instance, if you want to address your wei qi, if you think your wei qi is run amok and is running around screaming in your head, the sky is falling, we're all gonna die, then there are some things you can do to calm that down. First thing you can do is breathe, right? We've been talking about breath for the last 2 Tuesdays and how important breathing is. But there's a specific type of breathing that supports wei qi function, that down regulates that sort of chicken with its head cut off wei qi expression. And that type of breathing is any breathing that is done where the exhale is longer than the inhale. Right? This downregulates the sympathetic nervous system. It helps the vasovagal responses to things so that we're not in crisis anymore. So a good rule of thumb would be to inhale to a count of 4, hold for 2 or 3 counts, and then exhale to a count of 6 or even 8 if you can. The more time you exhale, the more time you are letting go of that which has control of you right now. You are releasing the survival instinct so that it's not building allostatic load. So it's not making you crazy. So it's not building stress in your system. So if you take a deep breath in, hold, and then exhale for longer than you inhale, you will be down regulating that wei qi response. There are 3 other things that you can do. Actually, there are tons of things, but there are 3 other easy things that you can do for your wei qi. The first is, since your wei qi is the filter for everything trying to get in, reduce your input. Turn the news off. Instead of watching it for 3 hours, give yourself 10 or 15 minutes in the morning and 10 or 15 minutes at night, and don't watch it anymore. Reduce the irritation that the input gives, the excitement, the negative kind of excitement that the input gives. So reduce your input. You reduce the stress on your wei qi if you do that. You can also do that by reducing sensory input, by turning down your lights a little earlier in the evening so that things are not so bright as the sun goes down, by turning down the volume of whatever music you're listening to, right? So that there's not so much input, sensory input. So reduce your input. Another thing that you can do for your wei qi that's really important is grounding. The best way to do grounding is kind of challenging these days, and that's to get your bare feet on natural surfaces. So in LA, and I'm in Long Beach, we're not that far from the ocean, but they've closed all the beaches because people were hanging out at the beaches. And so if you can get your bare feet on grass, if you can get your bare feet on sand, if you can get your bare feet on some natural surface, that is very helpful for your Wei Qi. If you can't do that because those surfaces are not available to you, then soak your feet in Epsom salt at the end of the day. Because the Epsom salt will ground your Wei Qi and draw it in, which is what you want at the end of the day. You want your Wei Qi to go in and get nourished by yin so that when you wake up in the morning, it's ready to go to protect you and do its survival job. The third thing that you can do if you can't calm your Wei Qi down is develop some method for body awareness. My favorite is, I think, one of the easiest things. There are all these meditation apps out there now. The one I use is called Insight Timer. They have what are called body scan meditations, where you literally lay down and put on these meditations for 15 minutes, and the person on the other end of the app has a lovely, peaceful voice with sweet and calming background information, and they literally take you through your body one piece at a time to recognize where the tension is. The tension that you experience in these meditations is evidence of where your sinews are obstructed, and Wei Qi is what circulates in your sinews. So if you can get your sinews to relax, your Wei Qi will relax with it. So breathe, exhale longer than inhale, reduce your input, ground, and body awareness. All four of those things, any one of those things might make a difference in how your Wei Qi responds to the crisis. Your Yin Qi, the first thing you can do to support your Yin Qi is breathe. But the breathing is slightly different here, right? So for the Wei Qi, it's exhale longer than inhale. For Yin Qi, there's an emotive quality to Yin Qi. And one of the breathing techniques that I find is very useful for this is when you exhale, make a noise, right? So you breathe in through your nose, and when you exhale, you can groan, you can moan, you can yell, you can do whatever you want, but you need to make sound because that vibration releases pent-up emotion and supports the Yin Qi. So, different kind of breathing. The other thing is to remember that your feelings are something you are having, they are not who you are. And so you need to remember that when you're having an emotional experience, since it doesn't belong to you, that you can let it go. You can release it. You can embrace it, get the fullness out of it, and then just let it go. And we were talking about this, I don't remember if it was Keith's, I think it was probably Keith's lecture where Lorne was talking about shaking, right? You had everybody shaking their body, right? This is a useful thing for the emotional content of Yin Qi. Move your body, not in a stretching kind of way. You know, the stretching like yoga or Pilates or something like that is really good for body awareness. But to discharge that emotion, you need to rattle things up. You need to shake things. So if you don't want to shake because you feel kind of funny when you're shaking things, then put on some really good dance music and shake your ass to that. Get things moving in your body. Get things discharging so that you're not holding on to something that is meant to offer you an experience, but not become part of who you are.
We may have a question, so I'm going to see if it's
good.
We're going to go to Kathleen. And what you weren't aware about my shaking during Keith's lectures, he was throwing $5 bills at his computer, and that's why I did that. So just so you
Hey,
guys know where that came from, but we're glad we started.
that's also good for your emotional state. Be
Kath,
better if they were $10 bills.
yeah. Well, it doesn't take much for me. So, Kathleen, you have your hand up, so we've unmuted you. Do you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, just a quick question. Yvonne, this is lovely, and I'm so looking forward to listening to it again because you just can't drink it all in one sitting, and there's so much layers to absorb. One thing I was wondering about when you were talking about, I do a lot of yoga, and when you were talking about the breathing and you were talking about making a sound, do you do much yoga or pranayamas? If I use some yoga terms so you understand them?
Yeah, I do understand the terms. I don't practice much, but I do understand the terms.
In pranayama, there's something called the ujjayi breathing, where
Yeah.
okay, would that be another way to do the one where
Yes.
and what about just basic oming? Would oming be also a good way to do it?
Beautiful way to release it. Yeah. Yeah. I find that oming in particular is better after you make a little bit of noise first. Like you get the excess out first, and then you can let that om come through clear and open, and it's very releasing. Yes, absolutely.
I took a class one time of a Buddhist from a Lama, and he was giving us some breathing in the Tibetan style. And he talked about for panic, and I've suggested this to patients, and it's worked for them for panic. And I'm wondering what your take on this, if it relates to what you're talking about here. He suggested when you om that it's like a sensory deprivation where you put your thumbs in your ears and your fingers over your eyes, and then you do the oming, and it's to help to quiet down the thoughts. And I've suggested it for panic and gotten some good feedback, but I'm wondering if that plays into what you're discussing here, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, I've never actually done that, but it makes total sense to me because the release that comes from the om comes from the interior, from a state of yin qi. And so when you cut off the sensory input, you're taking the wei qi out of the picture so that the focus or the intent is more powerfully yin qi. So that makes total sense to me. And I don't know if that's why he's doing it or not, but it does make sense to me that that would work.
And in so many cultures or works, medicine, sages, the breath is such a key, right? Because the breath is our connection to the nervous system. Even in modern science, the deep inhale, so that deep breath, they're saying it somehow massages the vagus nerve. So that's calming the amygdala, that stress response. And now they're showing through heart rate variability, it's the long exhale you described as a letting go.
Yeah.
The exhale engages the parasympathetic nervous system.
Yeah.
And so when I do, rather than doing a term called box breathing, in for 4, hold for 4, out for 8, or 6, 6, 6, I have my patients do the in for 4 and a long 8 exhale because of the breath. And then the body scan that you were talking about, that has been shown, it's an inside job. And when you do that, you go into, rather than narrow focus, when you're looking into the environment, that's the wei qi, you're externally identified. When you close your eyes and you bring awareness, like right now, just bring awareness, close your eyes and bring awareness to your right hand. Just notice you have a right hand without moving it or touching it. And now bring awareness to know that you have a thumb. Can you tell you have a right thumb? Well, that is called open focus. And we now know through EEGs that your brain goes from high beta, wei qi alert, to alpha, which is a form of detached relaxation. So these techniques actually have a physiological effect on the body, which we can now measure with modern science, which, as Yvonne is sharing, has been talked about in our medicine a long time ago. So thank you for sharing this. I do got to give one shout out. Guess what, Yvonne? There's a lovely man on here named John, and he goes, he was like, oh my God, I just love serendipity. Oh my gosh, John McDonald. Hi, John. I just realized Yvonne wrote the book, Psycho-Emotional Pain in the 8 Extra Vessels. It's a coincidence because I'm actually reading it all day today, and I didn't know it was the same person. So I love how that happens.
Hi, John.
Way to go, John. Anyways, Kathleen, thank you for your question. Go ahead, Yvonne, let's continue on.
Yeah, so just to sort of put a cap on that before I talk about what you can do for Yuan Qi, and this idea of the breath work being so important, the thing that I think we don't realize is that as human beings, we live so much of our lives unconsciously. And if it is unconscious, then the wei qi is leading the tango. because that's where the Wei Qi functions, is at an unconscious, pre-thought kind of level. And so we don't even realize, most of us, that we're not breathing, that we're only breathing at the level of Wei Qi, which is enough to keep us alive. It isn't enough to thrive. It isn't enough to be fully embodied. It's just enough to keep us alive. You ask patients often to take a deep breath, and you can see it stops right at the top of their lungs. They don't even know how to bring the breath in anymore. And most of us, even though we're trained to breathe, if we really stop a few times a day, we'll discover that we're not breathing, that we are resisting the breath because we just can't take any more in. We're full up. And so this is why using some of these releasing techniques where you're exhaling more or where you're making noise when you exhale allows you to empty your cup, allows you to let go so that more can come in, so that there's room for more. So breath work is always important, no matter which level of qi we're talking about. So with the yin qi, we have the noise on the exhale. You also have the idea that you have feelings. Those feelings are not who you are, that they'll pass. Move your body, shake your body, dance, circulate your blood. Yin qi is the qi aspect of blood. Get your blood moving. If you get your blood moving, you'll be less trapped in the emotional distress. And then the last thing that I would say is a lot of you are very creative. Find a creative way to express your emotions. Paint, draw, garden. Find some way to express yourself creatively, because if you can express yourself creatively, then you will find it easier to keep that cyclic emotional process moving. And that's what it needs to be doing. It needs to be moving. It's not supposed to be static, not supposed to be trapped in those emotions. So in that last level of qi, yuan qi, this is the deepest aspect of qi. This is the constitutional aspect. This is the aspect that is related to belief and a sense of self. Who am I and why am I here? Once again, one of the most important things you could do is breathe, right? So the breathing that helps you here is that deep belly breathing. And also the kind of breath that Randine was talking about when she says on the exhale, exhale until there's simply no breath left, to the point where you're squeaking out the last little bit of air in your lungs. And then you just open and everything comes in. So getting your hands on your lower dantian, making sure that on the inhale, your belly expands. And then when you exhale, letting go, 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 until there's no breath left. Inhale down into the belly. So 3 different types of breathing, 3 different impacts on 3 levels of qi. The other things that help yuan qi are the ability to negotiate stillness in some way, shape, or form. And so that can be meditation. If you have a practice where you sit on a cushion and breathe, or you have a mantra or something like that, to find that moment of stillness. That can also be found sitting in nature. Put your back up against a tree, or stand in a place where you can see the sunset and just be still and embrace the beauty of the sunset. So you need to find stillness. That stillness is what allows you to dig down into that level of yuan qi. And the reason you want to get there is because that is where the observer is. You need the observer, because the observer is never broken by any traumatic experience you have in your life. The observer lives in the unbroken place. No matter how hard things get, no matter how much you experience, there is a part of you that is untouched by that trauma, untouched by that challenge. It can step outside of the experience and see that experience from a different perspective. That place exists from Yuan-Chi. And when you can increase your awareness of that place, when you can increase your awareness of the observer, when you can engage that, then you have perspective and choice. The last way you can get that, and I'm going to talk about this for the next 10 or 15 minutes, is through the 8 extras. This is why I love the 8 extras so much. These are the vessels of curriculum. They are the place where the seed of your destiny is planted. They are the place where you exist in the most authentic, unbroken manner. So these are very, very powerful tools for embracing your own destiny. I often will tell students not to treat themselves, to surrender to someone else and allow someone else to be objective and to treat them. But the one place that I will not say that is with the 8 extras, because nobody is in charge of your destiny more than you are. Nobody knows that deep place in you better than you do. And so there are ways where you can embrace that aspect of yourself and choose to work with that aspect of yourself by using or doing 8 extra treatments on yourself. And you can do those in a number of ways, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But to me, the most important thing about that is that this place where the 8 extras come from, this place is the place that's beyond the trauma. This is the place where if you can connect with this, then you can regain sovereignty. You can take back who you are. You can remember who you are. And when you can remember who you are, then you can find that calm in the uncertainty. You can find that place of peace when everything is chaotic around you. And so when you think about these vessels, they all have a unique personality. Each of them has an archetypal energy. Each of them has a certain energetic or gift or function that it brings. But they all spring from one vessel, and that is the Changmai. The Changmai is the source vessel. It's the blueprint. It's what I lovingly call the unbroken place, where the seed of who you are was planted. And so if you can engage that place, then you can shift your perspective. You can shift your awareness. You can shift your reaction to the experiences that you're having. And this is an important thing, because sometimes when we try to get that stillness of Yuan-Chi, we find all sorts of resistance there. I have a very hard time sitting on a cushion and meditating. A lot of people have a very hard time trying to find that stillness, trying to find that place where everything is centered and calm and anchored. And so if you cannot get there through sitting on a cushion, you can do Chiang Mai treatments on yourself. And those treatments will begin to open the door that will allow you to enter that place. It's like having the key to the temple. When you can unlock that space, you can find the eye in the storm. You can find the place of wholeness in you. You can find the place that says, this is not going to break me. There's reasons for this happening, and I'm just going to get in the flow, and whatever comes up, I know that I can deal with this. So I would like to give you a very simple prescription, a Chiang Mai prescription that you can do on yourself. You can do this with needles, should you be able to overcome your self-preservation and allow yourself to stick yourself. Some people can't. You can do this with essential oils. You can do this simply by tapping these points on a daily basis. You just need to wake them up. And so I have 3 points for you, 5 needles. The first is spleen 4. Spleen 4 is the master point of the Chiang Mai. You do that on one side. Pick a side, any side. If you're right-handed and it's easier to do it on your left side, do it on your left side. If you're left-handed, do it on your right side. If you have a bunion that's uncomfortable, do it on the side that doesn't have the bunion. It doesn't matter. Just pick a side. Do spleen 4. Once the door is open, and you get the door open not just by needling spleen 4, but by intending to open the Chiang Mai when you needle spleen 4. Give yourself a little mantra as you put the needle in. I'm opening the Chiang Mai now. I'm intending to open the Chiang Mai. I'm intending to access the source. I'm intending to access the observer in me. I'm intending to return to oneness, to unity, to wholeness. Do whatever you need to do to set your intent to move towards the Chiang Mai. And then I recommend 2 points. The first is kidney 16. Kidney 16 is level with the umbilicus. It acts like a doorway to the earth point. It brings the energy down into the legs and grounds the body. It activates the leg channels for holding yourself upright and standing on your own 2 feet. It also, not accidentally, is right in the middle of your belly. And so it supports transformation and transportation. And if you want to grow, to gain back more of who you are, to embrace evolutionary stress as an opportunity versus a challenge, then getting your middle jiao to work is very important. The last needle is kidney 26. Kidney 26 is at the top of the chest. It is what's called the front shoe point of the lungs, of metal, right? It is associated with the paw, right? So that's the spirit of the lungs. So that spirit has a lot to do with how Wei Qi works. It has a lot to do with how the lungs work, but it also has a lot to do with the desire to be earthbound, to be fully embodied as a human being, right? That's what we do every time we take a breath in, is we're embodying. That's why none of us breathe, because we don't really want to be here and feel uncomfortable, right? But bring it all in. Take a deep breath. So spleen 4 on one side, kidney 26, kidney 16. And you can do those bilaterally, or if you want to do them contralaterally, you can do that. If you do them contralaterally, you're going to create a little more circulation. If you do them bilaterally, you're going to create a little more harmony, balance.
Yvonne, for the Was the spleen 4 unilaterally or can be bilaterally as well?
You can do it bilaterally if you have a good reason for it. But when Li Shen talks about the master points, he says they're typically done unilaterally because you only need one key to unlock a door. Okay. So the spleen 4 isn't on the pathway. You're not reinforcing the pathway. You're simply unlocking the door. If you're striving for more balance, or you feel like you need to get that energy down into both feet and it's not happening unilaterally, then yes, you could do them bilaterally. But typically with the master point, we use one.
So usually because we're putting, just for people that want to write this down, spleen 4 unilaterally, and then kidney 6 and kidney 26 could be unilaterally. So kidney 16 only one side, kidney 26 only one side, or you can do them bilaterally.
Yes. Yeah. And so unilateral needling gives you more circulation, because when you leave one side empty, you create a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum and will move to fill it. And so unilateral needling tends to promote movement, whereas bilateral needling tends to move towards homeostasis, more balance, more stability. So depending on how you're feeling, if you're feeling really stuck, then you probably want to do them unilaterally or contralaterally. And if you're feeling like you're scattered and you want to get it together, then you want to do them bilaterally, right? To bring everything in, to collect everything. And I see people talking about the direction of kidney 26. The beauty of the kidney shoe points on the chest is that their primary function is to consolidate jing and blood. And so when you needle them for this purpose, like you are in the Chiang Mai, you put the needles in towards the sternum, consolidating, moving in towards the chest. And the kidney 16, what I said with that is it isn't actually a doorway to the earth point. It acts in the same way doorway to the earth points act. They're grounding, they're stabilizing, they bring the energy down into the legs. So they have a very earth-like quality to them, right? Versus the window of the sky points, which open the energy to the heavens and deal with karmic and spiritual issues. Doorway to the earth points ground you and bring you into your body, right? Bringing the energy into the legs. Now, for those of you who do not want to needle yourself, you can use one of 4 oils. Sage. Sage has an impact on the stomach, the gallbladder, and the kidney. Fennel, liver, spleen, stomach, kidney. Myrrh, moyao, right? Lung, spleen, and stomach. And frankincense, lung, heart, and kidney. You can use those oils, one of those oils, applied to the points instead of using needles. If you do that, do not put the oil on your finger and touch your finger to the point. That's too much oil. Remember, we're trying to bypass the Wei Chi's defense and go into the level of Yuan Chi. So use a blunted toothpick or a guide tube, drop a drop of oil on the plate, dip the guide tube into the oil, touch the guide tube to the point, or the toothpick to the point, just a tiny, tiny bit of oil. If you do this once a week is enough. It takes 7 days at least to process a Chiang Mai treatment, process any 8 extra treatment. Once a week is enough. And then my recommendation, if you do this, is to just watch what happens. Just be present and let the observer come out and watch what happens. And the reason I say that is because this is a very time of great upheaval. Everything is uncertain. Everything is up in the air now. And we're being asked to change on a global level. And so we have to sort of find a new normal which takes us out of our habituated states. We're all living in these habituated states, these unconscious, habituated, it's easier to do it this way. And what we need now is a really dynamic action that allows us to engage that deep, unbroken place in us. And it is from that unbroken place that we can regain sovereignty, that we can become more of who we are, that we can become more fully embodied. And then we can take that into the new world. We can take that state of beingness into the world after all this chaos is over with. We can't go back to the habituated states. There's no going back to what everybody thinks is normal, because there's no more normal, right? This is changing everything. And so we want to come to that with a deeper connection with who we are. And I think the Chiang Mai is the way to do that, or at least the way to begin that process, since it is the fountainhead, the source of everything. Questions? You need me to repeat anything? You need further clarification?
We've been scribing stuff. So a few comments. Somebody asked if you teach 8 extras. The answer is yes. That's
yes.
her thing. And she has a lot of stuff on healthy seminars with the 8 extras for fertility, for pregnancy, for insomnia, for menopause, and then a lot of mental, emotional stuff. Just want to remind you, as long as we're in isolation, for April 30th or longer, if we're still in isolation, all courses on demand on Healthy are 25% off. The site is on sale for on-demand courses, including Yvonne's. Just use Healthy 25. And then just to repeat, so sage oil was for stomach, gallbladder, kidney. Fennel was liver, stomach, spleen, kidney. Myrrh was lung, spleen, stomach. And frankincense was lung, heart, kidney. Thank you, John. John's been scribing for us. He told us the points earlier in the oils, and he's the one that's reading your book right now that just got the coincidence. And again, if you have anything to add or comments, do post it. Yvonne, were you on my, I did the survival tips. I don't know if you were on there.
No, I didn't get to.
So that replays up. And the reason I bring it up is I shared the same idea of this calmness and that that there is, you can't hold on to the past and don't expect it to be the same. And so if you guys are interested, that's up until the end of the week. I talk about the yin within yang, the calmness, that's the key to survive and thrive in this. And I share the Einstein quote, you can't solve a problem at the same level of thinking that it was created at. Basically, we've been kind of unconscious, and now we have to wake up and be conscious. Or no matter where you were, the universe has given us an opportunity, a wake-up call, a collective wake-up call. Usually we get individual ones, cancer, death of a loved one, something bad happens to us, yourself. That's your wake-up call. This is
global.
Global. We're all
big.
It's everybody, right? You got
wake up.
Now, I still get emails and a few calls from people asking questions, and I'm like, in my head, are you living in the same planet I am? Like they're talking as if it was a month ago, right? And so I love what you're sharing. And I just want to let you know, Sandra, if you can put the link in there, if you're interested in that, I like to go, I take my TCM, but I do a Western background. So the first 30 minutes of that talk is me talking about the calmness and just talking about what you're talking, using new conscious science as well. Same message as you're saying. Everybody's saying the same thing. They just have a different angle from it. Speakers, and
it's good to say it. It's good to say it in a lot of different ways, because people are going to hear it differently too. You're going to resonate with certain ways that it's expressed. So we should be saying this dozens of different ways. It's in as many different ways as we can, so that everybody finds their own way in, right? What makes the most sense to me? How can I do this?
And it has to be said many ways. And I have evidence for it. I have proof. we wouldn't have gotten this collective wake-up call if we were getting it. So we're not.
That's right.
And we're getting a little support from the conscious universe, because people have been saying this, but we're just not quite getting it. So
Yeah.
it's like in your face. Now the majority of people are getting it. There's still a few outliers, but it's been flipped. Whereas there's a small group of people getting it and most of the people aren't. We have just been flipped upside down, and we're forced to get it.
Yeah.
So, I love listening to you, Yvonne. I've heard your lecture so much, and every time I'm just like, this just feels so good to sit back and take this all in. So thanks again for sharing. Guys, if you have questions, raise your hands, by the way, as well. We'll give you the mic to.
Somebody had a question about how you choose the oils. So you can choose them from the entering channels that I gave, but the easiest way to choose them is just stick them under your nose, right? Smell them. One of them's going to go, oh yeah, that's the one, right? And here I would say something else. If you're in a position where you can't get these oils and you have lavender, use the lavender, right? Use anything you've got, because any oil will activate the point because it's an irritant, right? The essential oils have an irritating quality that wakes up the skin at the point. But if you use one of the 4 I gave you, then you will get a deeper alignment. But just if you can't get those, use any oil. And like I said, if you don't even have the oil, you can literally tap on these points and wake them up that way. You could use ear seeds on the points. You could use magnets on the points. You could use any of those. The thing I like so much about using the essential oils is that these are Jing vessels, and essential oils are plant Jing. So to me, there's a sort of resonance with the oil and the Jing quality of the 8 extras. But do it any way you can, because the most powerful tool you have in this process is your intent, right? So do it any way you can and just put your intent behind it.
Question from the chat, because I actually had this thought. The points that you described earlier, spleen 4, kidney 16 and 26, you said this is a Chiang Mai treatment.
Yeah.
And then there was discussion, because in my mind goes, I always love to combine spleen 4 with Naguan PC.
Pericardium 6, yeah.
It's a confluent point. Also, just P6, what a powerful point. And there's discussion that it changes the treatment. And I'm just curious, is there a time? So we got a treatment here. I love what you've given. It's simple. It's powerful and effective. That's my mantra. Simple, powerful, and effective. Yeah. For coffee talk's sake. So what's your thoughts if somebody wanted to add pericardium 6? How does that change the treatment?
There's nothing wrong with adding pericardium 6, but you have to understand when you add pericardium 6, you are now adding the influence of the yin way to the Chiang Mai treatment. There is an overlap. They have a very resonant function, so it's not wrong to do that. But I think we're all overwhelmed, and this is a time where less is more. And so pericardium 6 could be added if you were having panic attacks or chest pain or something where the pericardium loop was constricted very tightly. Maybe you could add pericardium 6. But I feel like when we're talking about finding the unbroken place, that pericardium 6 is just another voice that's focused more on the pathology than the core, than the source place. So if I'm doing a Chiang Mai treatment, I often will add pericardium 6 because my patient is suffering from panic attacks. But that's not what this Chiang Mai treatment is for. This Chiang Mai treatment is to introduce you to your observer.
Thank you. Before we close, I just want to remind you, the replay will be up on the Calm Tuesday page, but if you go to the resource page, I just want to let you know what's up next for you guys this week. On Thursday, we have Throwback Thursday. and it's Susie Hayes' talk that we did many moons ago, an hour talk on taming the unbridled thought of anxiety, insomnia, depression. We get together and we play the lecture, and then we watch it together with our cameras on. And then at the end, we discuss it. And we did this with the late Al Stone. We had him on. We did it with Leon Hammer, who could not make it. He's 95 and a half, but he couldn't get on technology issues. But Susie's going to be on. So she's going to watch it with us. And so she's going to take questions at the end of that talk. So I just want to let you know, check out the resources page. You can find it on the homepage. And again, Yvonne has several courses on 8 extras. They're on sale using coupon code HEALTHY25. And what I'd like us to do now is let's turn on our mics and give Yvonne our love and connect with each other, because this is your chance to create that community.
Say hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much.
Hi. Thank you so much.
That was
Thank you.
so powerful,
helpful.
grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Everyone in the chat,
That was
everyone. Nice to see you, and I really want to get you on.
Thanks.
Very interesting. Thank you.
I'm doing recording.
Oh, Mary.
Ooh, look nice.
So great to see everyone here.
Hi, Mary.
Hey, Christine.
Yvonne Farrell. I'll figure it out in a minute. I'm listening to something right now.
Jane Gregory.
Here, Teo, do you want to say hi to some people on the internet? I'll show you.
Hi, Tatiana.
Dr. Angela's baby.
So many beautiful faces. I'm so happy to see you all.
Yes, thank you so much. Great.
Beautiful.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lorne. You've been awesome.
Thanks, Lauren. That was great.
Thanks, Yvonne. Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you, Sandra, for getting.
I love that part. That's the part that warms my heart. The whole goal was community, unity, immunity. And I love the fact that we're getting together. Conscious Tuesday to me is one of the most important things that I have on Healthy Seminars right now. We have Throwback Thursday. We got herbs for COVID, acupuncture COVID related, and all kinds, telehealth, all important. I think yin within yang, finding that stillness, changing our level of consciousness, our vibration, work on the inside, and then the outside will change. You still work on the outside, but the outside, the doing comes out of the being. And so we got to go inside first. And so this to me is the most important series I have on Healthy Seminars. Not taken away from anything else, but this is the one that if you can embody this and practice this and then go teach this to your patients, we don't need another one of these wake-up calls. If we go back to the same, we're just going to get another one, right? That's how calls work. If you wake up, you don't need another one, because the external environment is a reflection of an internal environment. And on a collective, we created this. For all you Democrats, I'm in Canada, so neither. You created Trump. He wouldn't be there if we as a collective didn't bring him into this being. So what are you putting into the world? Hate? Well, that's what you get, right? Fear? That's what we get. So you can't blame Trump and you can't blame this person. If we have it in the world, then somehow we are contributing to it. We want it to change. We go inside and we make our change. We heal our minds. And then everything else starts to shift on the outside. It's an inside job first.
Yeah.
So
it's a big inside job.
So keep coming to Conscious Tuesday, and please share this with your colleagues, post it on Facebook. This will be up for the next 48 hours. Next Conscious Tuesday is Lorie Dechar. If many of you know her, she's written one book and the second book just is being published. And so she's fantastic. So check out Lorie Dechar as well. We've been really blessed. Randine, Keith, Yvonne, and Lorie, the first 4 people on Conscious Tuesday are brilliant. So thank you guys for coming out, and I'll see you guys online again very soon.